各位亲爱的网友朋友，大家好。
Hello, everyone.
今天咱们讲的话题呢，就是巫师和这个非常真实的一些灵异的事件。
Today we're going to talk about
那大家一定
Sorcerers
会问
and some true
什么样的人是巫师呢？
supernatural events. People may have a
这个就是
question:
我个人理
Who
解啊。
exactly is
这个我
Sorcerers?
认为呢，就
My
是具有一些
understanding
特
is
殊
that
能
a
力的人。
person with special
那么他这
abilities
个能力
and
特
what
殊
is that
呢，
abilities
其实主要表现在
that possibly
沟通上。
able to communicate
那我
in
在
their
看中文
communications.
的巫师的这个巫
I've
法
seen the Chinese
上面呢两横，中间一
Sorcerers. If you look at the words, it is about there is actually two ren, which is two humans in there. What do the human do? Basically, what it is about the sorcerers. What does that mean? The up and top and bottom. It means the top represents the heaven and the bottom represents earth. And in the center, it represents human beings and also nature. Nature, which means mountains and rivers and trees. So it is he has ability to communicate with heaven, with earth, with nature.
甚至是与树木花草沟通。
And even have the ability to communicate with trees and flowers.
师傅讲的这个巫师，好像听起来好像是那种原始的哈，
Master,
比
you
较
talk
原
about
始的
these
产生的
Sorcerers,
像
it
那种部落
seems
里啊
like
大山里
the
啊，还有
original
民间人
functions
等
like
等
they
这样
seems to
的
have
哈。
exist
对，那
in
他们当
tribes
时
in
产生了
ancient
有这个
times.
巫师了以后，
After
他
they
们主要
have
的这个职
the
能是什么呢？
after they have the
其实就
sorcerers,
是
what is
说
the main
你刚才说
functions?
原始哈，
Well,
巫
you
师
talk
这个
about
应该
historically
说这个
why
工作
is there
这个
a
职业
functions of
就是来
this
自于原始的
sorcerers.
人类
I think it got to
部
do
落性的生
with
存。
the human
生存。
tribes of
比
survival.
如有几十人或者几百人，
Maybe
这个当中呢，有的人就好
some
像说
people
哎，我好像感觉到什么。
they among the people,
或者是
maybe
我
some
梦中
have a
梦到
special feelings or they
比
have
如说
special
明天
encounter in their
就和外
dreams.
国去打仗，
For example, tomorrow
受
they are
打
going
一个
to
在我们
have
的
a
手里
war
被打
with
死
foreign tribes
那他呢，他是希望，因为他们很爱自己的首领嘛。
because they
就是
love
他
their
打架
tribe leaders.
那首领如果死了，他们呢，
And if the
就
tribe
没法
leaders
生存
died,
了
就可
呀。
能沦为对方的
the
奴隶。
tribes may not be able to
那所以的
survive.
话，他就是梦到这样
They
的事
may
情，就
be
去赶快
captured
告诉他的
by
首领。
the
那首
by
领说那
the
得
the
考虑一下
enemy.
今天要不要打？
So they will
或者怎么
want
打。
to
对，
have a sense of
所以这个
whether they
巫师
should
这
go
个
into a
职业
battle.
呢，
So
就是在
that's why
人类
this job,
比较古代的
sorcerers,
时
this
候啊
job in
这
ancient
个
time,
部落是
during the
这一伙
tribes,
人在一起生活的时候，
when people live
面临
together,
比如说这个自然灾害。
when they are faced with
自然灾害
natural
的预知。
disaster, they want to make some
第二个最
predictions.
大的其实是疾病的问题。
And also, secondly, is to deal with disease.
瘟
Say
疫这
there
个是比
is
较严重的哈。
there is a
比如说我去追野
plague,
兽
for
脚崴了
example, or even if
受
you
伤的
对
if you
我
go
被仙人掌扎
if you
破了
are
毒蛇咬
injured
破了
by
毒蛇
some
咬了
wild
毒虫咬
animals
了
like poisonous
孩子
snakes
类似感
or
冒
poisonous insect
等
or
等各
maybe
种各
the
样的疾
child
病问题。
fall
那你想
ills.
在巫师产生之前，
So if you
是没有
think
医生的呀。
before the sorcerers,
啊
there is
你看
no
我小
doctors.
时候
When I
我
was
们
young
在的这个我们的中国，当时乡下来说的
in
话，就
China
没
in
有
the
正式什
village,
么医生。
there's no
当时有一
doctors
种医生叫赤
available.
脚医生是吧？
赤脚医
There's
生
one
经
type
常
of
选了一
doctors.
些刚读了
is
有几年
They just studied a few years. They are
小学和
not
中学文化的一些
qualified.
年
They
轻
may
人
have studied some
去做一个叫做医
knowledge
疗培训班，
and they went to study
就是
some
说
courses
连中医都
in
不是
medicines. They're not
西医
even,
更
they
不
can't
是
even be considered as
就
a
是说通常说
TCM
有几种
physicians,
常
not
见
even
症状
Western
可能是吃
doctors.
什么药，
Maybe
这个
through
症
their
状有什么
own
表现，
practice,
就是
they
几个
know
月培
that
训
there are
班
some
回去之后
basic
就
some
开始
basic
卖药
knowledge about medicine
就是为了
and they
乡里
started
乡
to
亲
sell
的服
some
务。
herbs
现在说这是
to
当
help
代
to serve. I'm talking
在
about
公元
during those
2000
time.
年前后的时候，
It's about
当
it's
时我们小时候的中国是这样的，
so that was
就
what
在乡
happens
下
in
啊
China
这样
in
的
the
大城
ancient
市
time
医
in
疗
the
会发
village.
达一些。
对，
Of
有医
course, in
院
the
像
cities,
现在
the
如果说在
medical
5000
field is
年
more
之前呢
developed. Let's say 5,000 years ago,
没
are there any
有
doctors? No, there's
1000
no
年之前
doctors.
乡村有医生
Even
吗？
1,000 years ago,
太
are
罕
there
见
doctors
少
in
了
the
非常
villages?
罕见，多数
Very
人很
rarely.
少嘛。
Because
对。
even people who studied,
那
there
么
are very
什
few
么
people
人
who
在
studied.
各个乡镇部落担任了这个医生这个职责呢？其中就是巫师。
So who take
啊
on
可
the
能
role
通过
of
这个
doctors?
人类的
Actually,
这
it is
个
the
很多积
sorcerers.
累的这个
Actually, it's a combination of their experience. Maybe they learned about herbs and they use certain herbs and they do some healings and it works. Or if let's say the poisonous snakes have bited and they use a different type of herbs, they mix and they combine and then paste it over. These are all what sorcerers have to do. It's their job duties of sorcerers. And you talk about trying to ward off plague. I remember when I was young, during a certain festival period, during springtime, we actually use some dried herbs or dried leaves, and we hang at the door. And so there are different types of herbs that we use. The North and the South China, they use different type of herbs, but it seems to serve the same purpose, and that is to ward off plagues. So these are all taught by sorcerers. These are based on the traditional beliefs and passed down. So if you think about it, for the Chinese, the medicines, the beginning of medicine starts from the sorcerer's practice. Actually, in North America, we also mentioned before about the North American traditions, and they still have a job. Yeah, they are still considered as medicine men. That is focused to heal. There's been more focus, but they have no medicines. Because the Red Indians, they have no words, so basically it's being passed down through words. Or they may know of some rituals, or they communicate with immortals and with the deities to give them something, to give them some inspirations to how to heal. Actually, another job is that they do is that they will communicate with the pass on the disease, the spirit of the disease, and communicate. Say, for example, you have someone in the family pass on, and the children thinks about let's say the grandfather passed away, and they want to know what happens to the grandpa in the afterlife. Actually, in Western world, it's also very common. In fact, in the Western world, this is quite common. There are some shows that specifically play this. Are these also considered as sorcerers, these people? Well, I think it depends on the country. Different countries has a different understanding of them. They also help to communicate with nature, communicate with the spirits. So these people communicate with spirits and ghosts. In fact, I've seen a young person. He seems to. There are some people who want to know about some of the relatives that pass on in their afterworld. Says, for example, the person who passed on used left hands to write. And they seem to be able to communicate and say, for example, this medium is able to, for example, the common words to the common. Let's say his name is Charles, but at home he has a different name. So when he went to the medium, immediately the medium is able to use the name, the special name that's being called at home. So there are some very special terms, whether be it in the Western world or in the Eastern world. Well, if there's some form of accuracy, people will not believe in them. In fact, we've seen that some of these mediums are so popular that you need to pre-book them for 2 years. Why? Because they are very accurate in their readings. So the ability to communicate with the dead, with the soul And with the spirit, this is something that's not common. Most people can't do it. In fact, they are also the feng shui master of the early days. But their type of feng shui and our Chinese feng shui is very different. So everything they will ask the deities and they will ask the spirit. So everything they will resort back to asking the deities. If the deities say it's okay, you can construct a house here, they will construct a house here. But there are some places they do not allow, the deities do not allow, so they will not build a house there. So say for example they want to look for the water source, or they want to look for food. So these are very functional, or even making predictions about next year. The weather, and also the harvest for next year, and also whether the child is able to be successful in the studies and be promoted to college, or even whether this child will have how many children in the future. So they are able to make predictions of the future. So people who have such ability, it is very important. Yes, indeed. Because they are able to communicate with the God, with the deities, and they represent the deities. So they are highly respected. Some may say that in ancient time, people are not so educated, they believe in it. Well, when you have nothing, maybe they are able to provide them the greatest directions and greater benefits are actually the sorcerers. But a lot of time when we talk about sorcerers, it seems to have some fear. But actually in ancient time, there are actually many of such sorcerers, and they are actually very... You need them in order for the tribes to tribes. I heard that in China, even in Mongolia, even in northeastern side, they communicate with some animal spirits. Are they also considered as sorcerers? Well, I think at this point in time, we have different categories of sorcerers. So now you have a start to have a deeper understanding about the different categories of sorcerers. In fact, when you look at China, be it in the greater northern areas or Mongolia, they are not part of China. If you talk about 400 years ago, they don't belong to China, and they are like foreigners. And that's why they also have its own rituals, and also the sorcerers' rituals and culture. And these are something that's passed down from generation to generations. So at that time, these people, they worship certain animal spirits, and they communicate with animal spirits. That's why the greater northern China area, there are 5 animals, and they communicate with these 5 animals. So you have like the fox, so they are like the 5 immortals of northeast China. It's like mouse and snake and hedgehog, fox. So these animals like to cultivate. They like to cultivate to become an immortal. So for them, they have their inborn interest in cultivations. So through years of cultivations, they can achieve a higher level, the immortal levels. And if you communicate with them, you will develop certain understanding that's beyond the nature.
帮他看事儿，对，出马仙是吧？这样，对他们叫出马仙，
总体叫出马仙，出是出来嘛，就干活的意思，对，出马就是出来干活，这样的仙家。
So the northern Chinese has this writing for the immortals. Shamanism does this.
他都通过人
It is through humans, and through their communications with the humans, they use the human words to communicate. For example, the child want to go for educations, they want to go for examinations, they want to know if the child will be successful. So they will seek the advice of the immortals of the five. And for human beings, we may want to know, may be very anxious about the future, may be anxious about our child's future. So you may want to know whether the child will be able to be promoted to higher educations. So maybe they may bring the child to someone who can communicate with the immortals, and this person will be able to seek the advice of the immortal and provide the advice. Because these immortal are just not purely animals. They achieve a higher level of cultivations. Maybe through their cultivations, they already have developed the ability to communicate or be able to make predictions. Say, for example, this specific person is sick, and they are not sure that whether the sick person will be able to pass. And maybe after consulting the immortals, they may say that, well, after 7 days later, you'll be fine. Maybe after that, indeed, the sick person after 7 days went home and recovered. So because of that, people start to believe in this. Well, what is the ability of the immortals got to do with their level of cultivations too? So every immortals have different levels of cultivations, and different immortals have very specific focus. Some tend to be more focused in healings, some are better at making predictions, some can communicate better with the deceased and the spirits, so everyone has its own strength. So everyone, you will need to seek them out according to what you are looking for. So this is Northeast China. But in Taiwan, we also see that many of such. So the mediums are also part of sorcerers, but the spirit mediums, it communicate with the deities. For example, some specific place, they communicate with some deities. Like for example, in Taichung, there is a certain temple. So they have a different descriptions for it, but basically it means the earth god. So they take care of the earth. So in Taichung, maybe they select a few people for them to communicate. So maybe through the medium, the deities communicate to the people, say that, well, now in Taichung, the tea plantations is growing well, or they will find some human beings who are able to communicate with them, and they communicate with them. For example, Naza is one deity. There are so many, in Taiwan, there are so many spirit mediums. In fact, there are some, and even in fact, we see the monk, the beggar monk, who is able also, as a form of deities, communicate with people. Sometimes their predictions is quite accurate. So the environment that we grow, we can't mention this. But in Taiwan, when we move to Taiwan, they have a lot of freedom to discuss this. And when we talk about this, I think Taiwanese are very smart too. So if you always cheat people, who will offer or worship you? Nobody will care about you. So actually, some of the mediums are make quite good predictions, or even Lord Guan. In fact, there are other deities that we may not even heard of. There is even the fortune god. I only remember some of this. In fact, in Malaysia, there are also other type of mediums. There are even Guanyin Bodhisattvas as well. There are many many deities. So in Taiwan, broadly, the sorcerers, they communicate mostly with the deities, like the deities will enter their body.
点上那个香之后，冒着那个烟，给这要准备上身的这个人呢，也叫乩童嘛哈。一般男的多，现在也有很多女的。
Usually there are a lot of the spirit mediums are men. Actually, there are some ladies as well. So they bring the incense and they move around the incense burner. So once the deities enter their body, they start to talk. And the type of words that they use seems to be like deities talking. I've seen on the... Recently, I've seen one of those. I look at the face. I quite liked the face. He used a lot of the ash and the incense ash and covered the face until the face is entirely dark. And I feel that a few hours now, the eyes never close. Well, this is something that normal human beings can do it. So I've seen that one only blink only once in 2 hours, and I've seen another one for 2 hours. The eyes don't blink. To enter into that state of mind.
普度公不眨眼，那是已经速成的遗像，他怎么眨呀？那佛像不眨眼呐，对不对？
对呀，他通的不应该是那泥像，他通的是那个灵嘛，不是？
So who is it that he's trying to communicate with? He's trying to communicate with the spirit.
那我还是眨眼吧。
老实一点吧哈。就是说，他反正显示出和常人不一样的。
So basically, he shows something that's unique, not normal.
三公是吧？他就不眨眼。
So these specific deities doesn't blink at all. But does it mean that all deities, all the medium doesn't blink? No, it depends. So this is another one. This is a beggar monks. Well, after the person helps, there are a lot of people, they actually recovers. What did he do? So this monk, the Jigong, this monk, all he did is just use a fan and helped, and it seems to provide healing abilities. And there's one who says that he has some debts. And this monk, this deity's monk, give ideas for him to keep the house or help to pay the debt. And that's because of the deity's monk that helps to show some sign and some way to help him to become debt-free. And this person was so happy that says, well, I'm going to believe in Qigong for the rest of my life. I want to be a volunteer for the rest of my life because now the deity's monk, the Qigong, has helped me clear my debts. And in Taiwan, there's also Mazu. It is also another goddess. They also have some spirit mediums that represents Mazu to provide some advice. So in fact, they want to be blessed by Mazu. And why? Because after that, they feel that after being blessed, the entire year they will be very lucky, fortunate. It is a form of belief. The belief stems from the worship. Well, let me ask you, if it's not effective, if you think about the education level of the Chinese, do you think they will believe in it? They must be quite practical and effective. So actually, in Taiwan, there are a lot of temples. So that's why in Taiwan, a lot of people believe in the Buddhist goddess Mazu. So there are different ways of communications. So we mentioned that there are some who communicate with the spirits, the immortals, animals. I think not only Taiwan, in Malaysia, it is also quite common for the Chinese to communicate with the deities. Maybe they communicate for health, for wealth, and communicate with the spirits of the dead. And there are some, they just have a certain feelings. The sorcerers have certain feelings, and they are very sensitive. Their body is very sensitive. They will be able to sense what normal people cannot sense. Say, for example, when they touch the stones, and after they touch the stone, for example, all of us go to climb the mountains, and someone at the base, there are so many stones, and suddenly he touched the stones, and he said, "Today, let's not go up the mountain. Maybe it's going to have some landslide or some misfortunes, and people may die. So let's not go up the mountains." Some people have that sense. Well, some people may touch the tree, or at the tree, or they have a sense the tree. I say, well, the deities tell me that today it is not good to enter the forest. Or we should try to avoid going to the mountain or going to the mountain today. Someone may easily sprain the ankle. Say, for example, I watch some Korean show. Some Korean, they even went to the forest mountain and they disappear. In fact, in Japan, something like this happens. Or even in Taiwan, something like this happens too. Someone says that this person has been climbing this mountain for 30 over times, and then this person just disappears, and it becomes a mysterious case. So they have absolutely no idea what happened to that person. That person just vanished completely. So some sorcerers, through some method or through some things, or it's like trying to crack a case. For example, someone disappears, and the student disappears, so the parents cannot find it, so they look for a sorceress, and the sorceress says that, well, maybe it's a cup. What is it? That's something that the person used. So the mom may give a cup that she used. Maybe the sorceress will use a cup and smell it, and touch the cup, and start to chant. And after that, communicate with the deities and say that the deities communicate to me that the person is in which directions and how far is from here and what is the environment and the feelings. What's the person's feeling? Is it painful, or is it no sense, lost the sense? So some sorcerers are able to communicate, to sense this. I remember this in Taiwan. And some people went for a walk in the river, close to the riverbank, and then suddenly there is the water raised level, and a lot of people fell in. The rest of the children found it, but except one girl, nobody can find it. So they look for a sorceress, and the sorceress try to communicate with the girl's spirits. So finally, they found it. It is at a specific spot in the river, and there's a stone, and the body was in between the rocks. When they took the body out, the body of the girl was fine. It's quite complete. And the sorceress communicated. Actually, it is the river god that want the girl to be the wife, and that's why protected the girl's body. So eventually asking the family to offer some good clothes into the river to complete the rituals. It's quite. So if you never ask the sorceress, you probably have no idea what happens. Actually, in ancient times, in the different tribes, it has a very important role because of its supernatural ability, it helps to solve some issues for the tribes. So, Master, we know this, and we have seen some movies, and we've seen some in some books. We find that there are some who use the superpower to cause harm to others. So in this job of sorcerers, are there some rules? Like, will the people who practice like black magic, will they be punished? Well, as far as I know, every sect has its own rules and regulations, and there are certain requirements. So if they do not fulfill their roles, or if they break the rules, then they will be punished. Maybe the sorcerers would die of a natural death, or even the spirits of the sorcerers will be affected, or even the descendants of the sorcerers will have bad karma. So that's why in some major sorcerers, the sects, they make a vow, and they want to fulfill their roles as a sorceress. But of course, there are some sorcerers who practice black magics, but that got nothing to do with the sect. It got to do with the individual sorcerers. It is just like a policeman who's supposed to uphold the rules and orders, but do otherwise. So that's because the person is affected by desire, is blinded by desire. Also, there are also some sorcerers, because of greed, because of other desires, they do something they're not supposed to do. So such things do happen. So in fact, in the history of China, in the history of the world, you find that there are such incidents as well, because of greed, because of desires. Actually, Master, when I was young, I've seen some sorcerers. Can you tell us? Yes. When I was young, I stayed with my grandma, and I grew up with my cousins. My younger cousin was much younger than me. When I was 8 or 9, my younger cousin was about 1 year old. And my grandma looked after my cousin. But these cousins always cry at night. My grandma is very experienced. And look at my cousin. If there is a green vein that protrudes, and say, oh, he must be scared, I must do something to the boy. So my grandma has some method. So one time, I remember that my cousins kept crying and didn't stop. Not only there is a green vein at the incang, at the forehead, and even his poo was green in color. And my grandma said, "Oh dear, this is serious. It is very critical." So where we are, we have neighbors, and these neighbors this grandma neighbors has some ability, special ability. So we invited this grandma to our house. So 2 of them, they try to help my younger cousins. So the old folks, when they're doing it, they ask us to go out. So I was very curious. I took a look at the door, and I opened slightly and look what's happening inside to see what they're doing. And I see that this Grandma Huang, he took rice, a small. So he put rice in a jar covered with cloth, and he started to chant a spell. And after that, when she removed the cloth, the rice diminished, only left half. And he showed my grandma, "Can you see? There's also some patterns on it." And I can't remember what they say. And Grandma Huang said, "Well, this is not good enough. I must continue." and told my grandma to go to the kitchen and put a big iron pot on the fire. So until it smoked. So during those times, we have a very big pot. So after the water boiled, then Grandma Huan said, "Bring the child here." And my grandma brought the child there. And just put like smoking the child for a while, and bring the child back up, and brought him down. And the grandma Huang said, "That's fine now." Then after that, we observed my cousins, and then the cousin seems to be fine. The seems to get better, and the stool is back to normal, and the green veins also, the veins also vanished on the forehead, also vanished. So, Master, do you think this Grandma Huang is also a sorceress? Yes, they are. In fact, in China, those that can help the child to calm the soul of the child is a big business. Because for some, they are more serious. The child may die because of fear. And if it's more serious, they may have nervous damage to the nervous systems. The third category is that they may become dumb because of fear. So it actually can be very serious. It will affect them for their entire life.
中国会有这么一个很大的民间的流派哈，就帮助这个小孩呢能够安魂。
So in China, there is actually a very important sect that's helping the child to calm the soul, the spirits of the child. So they do not take money, they do not accept gifts. And if someone needs help, even in the middle of the night, they will have to do that. Actually, for them, they have also benefited from this. Maybe when they were young, their masters have helped them, and because of their fate, the master told them that you have come to be of service. And when they say they're going to be of service, they have to do for the entire life. And in the future, you have to help people. And there are some rules and regulations that you have to observe. And once you observe this, I will teach you some Dharmic power. When Master you said this, I remember a story about my aunt. This story is shared with me by my mom. And my aunt, when she was young, about 6-7 years old, she loved to eat fish. She got a fish bone stuck in her throat, and she couldn't swallow she couldn't vomit it out. So they tried to feed her with vinegar, drink vinegar, and eating steamed bread didn't help. And my aunt kept crying. So the family took her to see a doctor. And the doctor says that surgery was needed because the bones is quite long. But my aunt was frightened upon hearing this because she was very young then, and she insisted on going back home. And on the way back from the hospital, they met an old man. My mom was there too, and the old man looked very kind, and he saw the family hurrying appearance and asked what's wrong. And my family told the old man what happened. And after the old man listened to this, and the old man said, "We had faith, and I could help the little girl." And he asked us to go home first, and he'd come later. And when he came, he brought some tools. He took out a piece of yellow paper and he drew some symbols on it. My mom said she couldn't remember what is it, but after that, he started to chant some spell. And then They burned the paper, the yellow paper with the symbols. And the old man said, pour the remaining ash into a bowl of clear water. And the old man pointed at the water and continued to chant some spells. And after that, he passed the bowl of clear water with ash to my aunt and asked my aunt to drink it. And after drinking it, in less than a minute, my younger aunt coughed softly. Just a soft cough. And the fishbone just jammed out by itself. And my whole family breathed a sigh of relief. My mom remembered the stories and told me about the stories. And but actually, nobody knows this old man, and this old man just appears. Is it something like sorcerers? Yes, the old man is indeed a sorcerer. Look, he's very practical. Well, it's very unbearable when you have a fishbone. In fact, it happens to every family. Even we have seen people who are drowned because during that time, during summer, it is very hot and there's no proper swimming pool. So a group of boys, usually what they do is that they just jump into the pond. And sometimes when they're not careful, they may get drowned. And if no one saves the drowning kids, they will die. And sometimes after they pull the drowning kids up, they do not know what happens. So what they do is some people will just use the practice of drawing symbols and drinking the burned yellow paper with symbols to bring them back to life. Besides this, there are also some stories that are quite strange. I heard about stories about Taiwan stories and shared by my friends. I want to share with all. And it's about a stoned lion at the door. So these stories took place in an old city in Taiwan about many years ago. And it is a family of three, parents and a 10-year-old boy. And one afternoon, while the parents were cooking in the kitchen, the child was playing alone in the house. Suddenly, the child started crying and howling like a ghost, which frightened his parents, making them rush into the rooms. And they went out the rooms, they saw that the child was rolling on the bed, screaming loudly. And despite the parents' attempt to hold him, he was uncontrollable and suddenly becoming incredibly strong. Even neighbors rushed over upon hearing the commotion, realizing something was wrong. It seems like the child was possessed, and there was about 10 people that came to hold the boy down. And everyone was shocked to see the child covered in wounds on his neck, on his waist, and even his back. These wounds resembling scratches from a cat. But the animal must have been larger than a cat because the scratches were deeper and wider. So at that moment, the child was delirious and is staring at the ceiling as if there was something there. So one of the neighbors, and the neighbors knew a local sorcerer, and quickly brought him to the house with the child's father. So they got the sorcerers home. So after examining the child, the sorcerer said, "Don't panic, I'll fix the child first." So without hesitation, the sorcerers took out a very long and thick steel needles, much larger than the sewing needle, and pricked at the middle fingers of the child's hand. And the needle pierced through and creating a hole in the finger, and this shocked everyone nearby. Some even covered their eyes. And the child, who was previously delirious, screamed sharply, suddenly awakened, feeling pain in his finger and body, crying loudly. So while comforting him, the parents asked, "Son, do you know who we are?" Immediately, the child responded, "You are my mom. You are my dad." And everyone breathed a sigh of relief. relieved that the child recognized his parents at last. So the parents quickly asked what happened just now. The child said, "The 2 lions bite me." The father thought, the child must have been scared silly, said, "Son, you are talking nonsense. Lions? Well, apart from the zoo, where in Taiwan will you find lions?" But then the child insisted. There were 2 lions, and they had red manes and not too big, biting me. The parents were surprised to hear this. Well, although there are no lions in Taiwan, the child was covered in wounds. And they didn't have any cats or dogs at home. What could have happened? So the child began to slowly recount what happened just now. While his parents were cooking in the kitchen, he was lying in bed, when suddenly he fell off the bed, hitting his head hard on the ground, causing great pain. So as he tried to get up from the ground, and he saw 2 lions crouching under the bed, and they had red eyes and red brown fur on their neck, which he believed was going to kill him. But, however, so he thinks that he's going to kill by this lion. However, to his surprise, the lion didn't even attack him, but just lie by him. So when he started to resist, the lions began to sweep at him with their claws. So they looked at the claw marks on his body, and indeed, they were from where he resisted. And now he realized the lion seems just want to communicate with him. So at this point, the sorcerers who was brought in asked him, "What have you done these past few days? Have you provoked anything?" The child gave some thought to it, and he seemed to remember something and said, "Yesterday, I took the chalk my dad used for writing on the blackboard, and I wrote on the head, the lion head at the city gate, and I wrote number 3 on one of the stone lion head and number 6 on the other one, because our house number is 36, and I thought that these lions would be our gatekeepers in the future, so I wrote our house number on the heads." Upon hearing this, the sorcerers immediately took the child's parents with him, along with clean cloths and water, and headed straight to the stone lions at the city gate. So when they arrived, they saw, indeed, the lion had number 3 and the other had the number 6 on their heads. So seeing this, the parents quickly bowed respectfully, saying as they cleaned the lions, "Oh, lion grandfather, we are really sorry. My child didn't mean it. Please don't be angry. We will make it up to you." After more than an hour of cleaning, these stone lions were polished and refurbished. And then after that, they returned home. Once they returned home, the sorcerers quickly removed the needle from the child's hand, and the child quickly returned to normal. So in the following years, the people in the entire old city, they attach great importance to this spiritually connected stone lion at the city gate. So during festivals, they would dress them up, and they will go and pray to the stone lions. They dress them up in red and green, and especially this child's family. So during the festive periods, his father would pay even more respect, and almost bowing to these stone lions every 1st and even 15th of the month. This is very interesting about the stone lions. So, Master, can we help to explain to us? So, do these stone lions from the stories, they must have some connectivities. That's why they come to the house. Does it mean that all stone lions have souls? Are all like that? No, not necessarily. Well, from my understanding of world and nature is that all things have spirits and forms. Say, for example, in the process of the carving, the stone itself has its own spirit. And maybe there are certain faith, they carved the stones into a lions. Some stones, after they carved the lions, not only has a certain beauty, but they also get some sorcerers to perform some ritual so that they have consecrated and blessed them. So usually to have the stone lions, it has certain meaning. Usually, a person's house. Last time, the government has some rules and say you cannot put stone lions at the entrance of your house unless you are some high-ranking officers. It has nothing to do with whether. So when they invited the stone lions, they put in front of the temple or in front of some government bodies. Usually they will get some sorcerers and they hope that the stone lion will be blessed. They will be able to protect. So it has the meanings of protections and guardians, like a guardian. So because of this, they perform a ritual to connect with the stones. And thus, it is like after they have consecrated and blessed some items, it will have some spiritual forms. Does it mean that older they are, they will have a higher level of spiritual energy? Yes. So after the stories came out, well, in Taiwan, during the Qing dynasty, the government, they brought the stone lions. During the Qing dynasty, they brought the stone lions to Taiwan, and that's why the city gate has these two stone lions, and that's why the stone lions has history. So basically, it will be carved to different image, and it has a different meanings to it. So in the past, there is a certain universities invited me there, and actually, it's the principals of the university. The next day, I can't remember whether is it the morning, to look at the entrance of the universities. And actually, at the entrance of the universities, has certain site. So the university is very cultural. They created a dragons, like a concrete dragons at the entrance of the universities. But not sure what happens by what was done by the previous principal. They actually gave the eyes is actually consecrated. So for people that see it, it seems like it's just a formations of concrete and stone into figures, a dragon figures. You take it as a art piece. But I look at it, the dragons can move, and it is a very, very strong-willed dragons. And it seems like this dragon has been called from a neighboring mountains, who has performed some rituals on this. And this is an evil dragon. And I'm sure that the reason for the principal to invite Master there must be a reason, right? Yes, it is to save his life. Because previously, the two principals everyone, within 1 year, they will pass away. One of them, one of the principal died because of an accident. Another one was diagnosed with cancer and only managed to live for 1 year, within 1 year and pass on. And he's the third principal. He couldn't say anything because it seems like there's a superstition. But he invited me there, is asking me to see, and if there's something that I can do. So actually, within the universities, there's a group of older people, and they know about this, and say that maybe it's the feng shui of the universities. And one of the feng shui master, he identified that it's got to do with the dragon at the entrance of the universities. So he invited me there. And when I went there, I looked at the image of the dragon. I felt that too. And I tried to communicate with the dragons. And I know that why I was invited there. And I had I communicated with the dragons and asked the dragons to leave and stop eating the human beings and don't come here. And so from performing the ritual, I told the dragon, do not come to the universities. And after that, the third principal was saved. He was able to be on his job for 6 years. Thank you, Master. So that was quite interesting. When I look at the dragons, I could sense the eyes. The eyes was emitting with light. And the light is telling me that it want to eat the human beings. I think what is important is that when they make the dragons, and also who actually invited someone to consecrate the dragons. So who is it? Maybe some with bad intentions. Maybe some invited a sorcerers with bad intentions, because it got to do with some envy. It could be because this is invited by someone who couldn't get onto the positions of the principal, and because of the hatred, they get the sorcerers that can perform black magics on it, and that's why it casts a certain spirit to the dragons. So that's why we must, it's very important for us to understand that all things have spirits and forms, and it's important for us to respect all. So the question is, Master, why is it that, why were 2 numbers written, and why did the stone lions come to the house? Actually, for the child, they write the 2 numbers. It is not disrespectful. It is just ignorance. And the stoned lions and the child, they may have some connections, connectivities, maybe karmic connections. Maybe the lions are not there to harm the child. But the stone lions has its own divine power, divine nature. And for this child, there's something I can't really tell the specifics of the connectivities. They are here to play with the child. Does it mean that everyone who write the numbers, the stoned lions who go to the house? Not necessarily. Maybe they're just there to play with the child. So the thing is, the parents cannot endure the lion's presence. So this child is not simple as well. The child is not a normal child. Maybe in the future, the child will become a sorceress. The child will have some special body, certain nature, supernatural power. And Master, why did the sorcerers use a needle to prick the hand. Well, this is not a form of magic. No, it's not. Because if you see there's a car accident, someone didn't move in the accident, so usually the medic comes, they will take something to prick the hands to see if there are some reactions, whether the person have some breathing. They will touch certain veins. So that's the first level. The second level is that if others have no sense, they try to save the injured. So usually, usually during accidents, someone may be in a coma, in a state of coma. So these are possible. So when they use the needle to prick the fingers, the skin around the nail, it is extremely painful. I remember that they used even like because it is connected to the heart. The fingers are connected to the heart. So when you prick the fingers close to the nail, it is trying to get the person to be back. And that's why the sorcerers use this method to prick the child's fingers to bring the child back to sense. This is also an emergency rescue method. Another one, it is there's this Heku acupoint. So you want to press that. And the other one is the Lenzong acupoint. If someone suddenly have a heart attack, you want to press on the Renzong acupoint. Well, whether you want to save the person, you want to know whether it is, you must understand what is the law of the locations. Say, for example, in Canada, when you see someone lie down, it's better that you don't move the person, because you may not know the body. Maybe the person is lying there, motionless. What you can do is just to call for emergency vehicles. So usually, unless you know how to perform, you are trained to perform the emergency, otherwise don't touch the body. Because even if you leave the body up, the injured up, you may actually cause harm to the injured body. Master, we have another story, and that's in Malaysia. It is one of our Dharma sisters' experience. We moved into the house. A lot of things happened. My husband cried at night. They have a certain fear. And the whole house suddenly becomes very inauspicious. And I myself do not understand why. My name is Chen Xiujing, and I'm from Penang Bright Moon Bodhi Meditation Center, Malaysia. I'm 50 this year. And in 2015, we bought a place, and then we tried to build a 3-story villa on a remote and desolate piece of land. Surrounding the villa, they have overgrown weed and forest. My husband to collect artworks. So he likes including some faceless old men playing chess, which is very eerie looking portraits, or even some porcelain figurines. And when I go to the house, I can see these eerie looking portraits. But my husband says that it is very auspicious. For me, it's very eerie. He believes that this pattern should be auspicious. In 2018, my husband and I visited a Warsaw museum in Eastern Europe. That's a World War II museum. And there were display of many soldiers' clothes, hairs, and even skeletons. When I look at these items, I feel very eerie. But my husband has no fear. He feels that these are all art pieces. And after we returned from Eastern Europe, we officially moved into this villa. So I'm not sure is it whatever was the reason after moving into this villa. My husband started to have nightmares every night, screaming loudly. Upon waking up, I will wake him up when he had the dreams. But when he wakes up, he wouldn't remember his dreams. So when we are in Eastern Europe, he didn't have this experience. It's only when we moved to this house, and every night he has the same dreams. So we consulted a feng shui master who advised that he told us that on the stairways we have to paint red. And we listened to him and we did exactly that. But didn't change. Things didn't improve. In 2019, August the 1st, my husband suddenly started vomiting blood. And I quickly bring him to the hospital. After medical examinations, it found that he had terminal cancer. My husband is always be careful about his health. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't sleep late. And every year, he will carry out his normal health screening. And what's strange is that in 2018, he also had a checkup and everything was normal. And within 9 months, he passed on. And later, I accidentally discovered his cancer report. So this is the liver, and beside the liver, we saw 2 skulls next to his liver, resembling the soldier skulls we saw at the museum. So is it because of the visits to Eastern Europe, he went to touch the bones at a time? Or is it the feng shui of the house? We really don't understand why. After he passed away, a lot of mysterious things even happened. The children were afraid to come home. And they have fear when they return home. And when they sleep. The next morning, when they wake up with bruises on their bodies. Sometimes it's on the legs, sometimes on the body, it's on the hands. When they disappear, and a few days come back again. And for me, I have dreams. I always dream that every night of falling from a height. Or I fell down from stairs. And every day when I try to wipe the floor, I will fall down. And I fell down from stairs twice. And I don't even know what exactly happens. After my husband moves on, what's even more strange is that our dog will start howling every night at 11, emitting a very mournful sound. I'm very scared, and so are my children. We want to see what happens. After my husband moved, my temper also became unusually irritable. And even if the children didn't make any mistake, I would lose my temper and scold them. And I couldn't even control the feelings. And only afterwards was I realized how irrational I was. The children didn't want to talk to me. What happened? Why is it the whole house is so inauspicious? Nobody wants to talk to me. I myself don't understand why. Just when I felt helpless in 2020, my god sisters introduced me to Bodhi meditations. And during this period, I also joined the health and meditations, the 8.5 days fitness class. And masters advise us that never decorate your house with ghostly or ominous decorations.
带有鬼魂式的那种图案的，也有很多日本图案当中，还有印度尼西亚的图案之中，有很多是鬼魂图案，所以大家小心不要用这个。
So masters tell us not to use inauspicious pictures and paintings. Instead, put auspicious and positive objects like tankas or sacred relics and even artifacts. Those are very auspicious. And this time, I remember that my house has a lot of such very strange, inauspicious objects. At that night, and all these items I have at home, I wrapped them up and threw them away. I got rid of all these terrifying artworks. And I started to invite the auspicious treasures. And I heard that there's this 7 stars, 8 diagrams arrays, and masters also say that 4-arm Guanyin Tanka is also very auspicious, so I invited that too. So after I put masters painting everywhere, and that night, the dog stopped howling in the middle of the night. And what is even more amazing is that at night, when I sleep, I stop having nightmares. I am able to sleep safe and sound every night. I stop falling off the bed. And for the children, they are all the bluish, the bruises disappears. And my temper also becomes better, and I also have better relationships with my children. I'm full of thanks to masters. During my most difficult, desperate, and helpless moments, Master came to help me and our family, and help us to turn the unfavorable magnetic field and feng shui in our house into an auspicious one. Gratitude to Master.
Well,
after hearing Chen Xiujin's stories, we have a lot of inspirations here. First, the husband liked to use very odd and very strange artworks. No head, no hands, like the paintings. Oh, that such scary figures, like ghostly figures. Actually, Master says that even the artwork itself, it will attract negative energy. Actually, through the stories of the lions, of the stone lions, we know that others will attract negative energies. Actually, if the painter has some negative energy, the painting itself will also has that as well, the feelings. So the husband liked all this. What does that mean? Is that not good? Well, it is all because of fate. We see a lot of modern art exhibits. In fact, all big cities have that. It doesn't matter which countries. A lot of time, this modern art, you can't really understand the art piece. I've seen one, I'm not sure what they use. They use some chemical. They create. You can see the pigs. This art piece is about 1 meter length in length. You look at it, it looks like a pig lying there. And the body, they have this bottle, glass bottle. The glass bottle, the glass jars lay on the pig's body. This is an art piece. I don't know why they created such an art piece. Is it because actually I don't like that type of pictures, Master? Because I have completely no understanding of the modern art. You look at the face, it has a ghostly face, no feelings, motionless. In Japan, in Indonesia, the artist likes that. You look at that, it's like two persons staying, and you look at the eyes has no feelings. So what exactly are they painting? You have no idea. It may mean a spirit, and it's selling at very expensive. If you draw a real person, it doesn't have any. So now we are at the stage whereby everything that is eerie and scary, so that's known as auspicious. Or even like skulls, or even like clothes. You put some auspicious pictures or cartoons, but now there are a lot of skulls, or even like knives, very dark. And Master says that these are very inauspicious. What is the feelings that brings you? You have a fear because it represents spirit. Second type is very scary and got to do with death. These are all inauspicious. What is the feelings it brings you? Is it you have reached the end? So I'm not exactly sure what is it that they're trying to portray. You want to have something that's more lively. So I look at the husband and her, they went to the Warsaw museums, and that museum is about the World War II, and the husband even touched some dead man's skull, the hairs. This is very inauspicious. So just want to remind all that do not. You want to see from a distance. So when they explain to us, the husband before he passed away, if you look at the x-rays, if you open bigger, can you see? I found there are 3 very strange faces. There's another one on the top. It looks like one that's having a helmet. And it's like Western features. And the one at the top, it's opened, it's like lifting the head up with the mouth opened. It's very eerie, right? It is extreme coincidence. So even the X-rays portray this, the image of this. And after he moved to the new house, the husband had nightmares every night. And shortly after, he was diagnosed with terminal disease, cancer. So they are all related. Who wants his life? So I think it is the World War II, some of the spirits, the soldier spirits. You just think about it. Why is it that the spirits brings with them some some negative
那都是些
energy.
年轻的孩子呀，20来
A
岁，
lot of these
是吧？正
spirits,
是
they are
青春
just
活泼的时候，
youth. They are
又
youth.
没
They
结
are
婚，
they are not
甚至没有
married.
恋爱，
They have
回
not
家
been
父母
in a
亲的好，爱
relationships.
得不得了，对不对？掌中宝。哎，可是这个时候的战争之中，他的
And
生命，
in
有
the
的一
war,
看着自己的腿断了，流
some
血
saw
流血死亡，
their
有的看着敌人的刺刀
legs
从
being
自己
amputated
胸膛
and
上
pass
穿过
away.
去，
Or some
整个
actually see
他
that
有
they
多
are
么的愤
they
怒，
see they
多么
died
的
in
不甘
great
心，
hatred.
这多么的委屈，对
So
吧？
they suffer a lot
甚至是每个
before
夜晚
death.
都出来对着月亮在哭泣。
真的，
那懂的人说啊，这里有鬼哭狼嚎，这是有鬼哭狼嚎，对不对？可是呢，他们不懂，所以普通人说，
So normal
这
people,
个
they do not
有些
understand
博物馆
that.
管得不严哈，咱摸一下，
They may
这
feel
个
that,
头颅
well,
骨
we
骼
should just touch
摸
the
一下他
skull.
腿骨，
We should touch
甚至
the
还说一些
bones.
评论的话，
Or even they make some
说这个
comments.
人可能长得有点丑，
Or this
这个
person
人可
maybe
能
looks
长得有
very
点帅。
ugly. Or this
说
person
评论的话
maybe.
千万说不得。
Remember,
触摸
do
哈
not make
人
such
遇上
comment,
亡灵，
especially with
遇
the
上神
spirit,
像，
with
遇
the
上甚至画鬼幽
with
灵
the
的像，
or
到了
with
寺
the
庙，
with when you
是
go to
佛
the
像、神
temple,
像、
the
菩萨
Buddhas,
像
image of
啊，
Buddhas,
这种甚至是什
or
么
the spirits,
阴间的这些鬼啊、鬼王
or
啊
all these ghostly
啊等等的，不要做
image.
评价，
Do not make any comments.
心怀恭敬，
You
心
want
里
to
别
be
贪起来
respectful.
某种怪异的贪念和分别心
Do
吧
not have some
以避
desire.
免
You
惹
want to
祸
avoid
上身
that
呐。
to
哎
ensure
这
your
种事儿像
safety.
我们在小时候，这是我遇到的，我讲过好几次，有个小孩，
I've said before,
是
when I was
其实他
young,
是我那个
there's a
上
young
小学同
child.
学，
It is
是
a
吧？
a
当
friend.
年去我们那个叫友好寺院，我
We
就在那
went
帮
to
忙
a temple
啊，
and we
寺院
helped
都
in
在
a
那帮忙
temple.
结果那个时候中国宗教还没有开放，
And during that time,
就是已经
religion
有
is
正
not
好说开
opened
放
in
开放
China.
还没开放，所以有很多寺院没有正式的僧人呐、什么这些仪轨都没有。
So
这
there's
些
no
像
ritual.
呢，很多佛像菩萨
Yeah,
像
some
法器
Buddha's
啊
image,
都
some
放在护房
rituals.
里头。那我呢帮着照顾这些像。
I just take care of
结
this
果我们的小
image.
同学，我们老师带着大概200来个小同学，就是来溜达参观。
And the
对，
teacher
见识
brought
见识。
about
目的是
200
挺好的。
people, students to
我其
visit
中有一个小
the
男同
temple.
学，
And
所以
there's
他
this
家离
boy.
我那个家住的不是很远，
He's not
所以我
live.
认
He
识
don't
他，
stay very
但是
far
不一
from
起
my
玩。
place.
特别我
Well,
2
although
岁
we
时
stay
候
quite near to
啊
one another, but we don't
我
play
是眼
together.
睁睁的看他没
I
拦得住我。
saw. I couldn't stop, but I saw.
在有一个我忘了是哪一尊叫愤怒的神像。
I'm not sure which
愤怒的
image,
神
but
像
it's a.
因为那时候没有供奉嘛，
There
就
was
当
no
仓库里放
praying.
那儿，就
It
放
was
在
just.
桌子上头。
It was just put
这
at
个
the
愤怒像
store.
呢，在这个脖颈上
And
挂的18
this
个人头
image
骷
of
髅。
Buddhas,
这个小孩
he
手
has
贱
an
过去
18
就不见了
skull, and he went there,
一下就把一个
He
骷髅头
took
给扭掉了，
a skull
把头
away
拿走了。
from the Buddha's
后来我就给师傅
statues.
说了，
And I
师傅
told
这牌做
Master,
得坏了坏了。
and my Master said, "Oh, that's really bad. You will have bad fortune."
就师傅只喊麻烦了，师傅很着
Master
急。
just said he'll be in trouble. My master
几天
is
之后
very troubled.
我回家
Few days
去打
later,
听，
I
结
returned
果
home
就是那个小孩
and I found that
第二
boy,
天
the next
爬屋
day,
顶，那屋
he
顶呢就有
climbed
点
the
尖
roof.
啊，
The roof is a
爬屋
bit
顶
sharp,
呢
and on the
一
way
下
of
踩
climbing,
空了，从屋顶上直接掉
he
到
took
他
a
的
step
院子里
back
头，
and he
把一个
fell
大腿骨哈直接摔坏了，
and he broke
就是拄双拐。
he
而
broke
且
his
每天喊疼
legs
痛到晚上啊，至少痛2个小时。
and they pain for 2
他爸
hours
就找
every
医生
night.
开的就是比较厉害的止痛药，天
They
天还
went
得
to
吃
see
就
doctor
形成屁股和腿这都萎缩。
and the doctor gave some
啊一生的
painkiller
残疾。
一生残疾。
and he
对
became a
这个都挺厉
handicapped,
害的。
paralyzed.
哎，我还遇到过我帮忙过的，他去那个
I've met another one,
到那
someone
个
that I've helped.
古董市场哈，
He went to some
在
market,
台湾的事情。
and this happens
哎
in
这
Taiwan.
一个应该算是中年吧。
I think he's a
34
middle
岁
age, 34
他
years
对这个
old.
古玉这类的很有
兴
一种
趣
喜欢欣赏的感觉。
He
不知道
loves
看什么节目
ancient
看
jade.
他去一个古董店，
So he went to
啊
an
去
antique
买这个古
shop.
玉
He
那个
bought
那
an
个
old
古董
piece
店的
of
老板
jade.
认识我，
The
他给我讲这个事儿。
shop
他买的这个
owner
古
knows
玉
me
呢
and
是
told me
古
about
代
these
人哈
stories.
古代的
So he
人
bought
的
this piece
贵
of
人
old jade. And this jade is owned by one of the concubines, and it is part of the burial items. It is a whole series of jade. It's one in a series of jade. Probably it's like 1,000 to 2,000 years ago. I know that's more than 1,000 years, but I don't exactly know which era. So, because it has been buried, it no longer looks like a piece of white jade. He knows some of this about the history of the jade, and he liked it very much. So the boss knows, and say maybe this is some tombs. It is the wife of. It is a very high level. The wives of some high-ranking officers. And it is being dug out from one of the tombs. So the owners of the antique shop show him some pictures of the ancient jade. And then he suddenly says that, well, this lady must be quite pretty. And the antique owners say, well, I don't know. If you like something, you like something. Do not try to find out the history behind it. But this young person, he's very immature and say, well, maybe this person is very beautiful. And something happened. At night, he had a dream. A dream of a lady wearing white robe in ancient clothes. And the hair is very complicated, and it's floating there towards him in his dream. And he said, well, young man, I know you like me, so I come to visit you. And this happens for a few nights. After a week, this man bring the jade to the boss. And the boss couldn't recognize him. He looked so different. His face, he looks like panda bear. The eyes, he seems like lose his vital energies. And the boss said, the boss knows. Allow him to return the piece of jade. And the antique boss said, you go to Taichung Temple, there's these Neza deities. You ask the Neza deities to help you to clear the spirits. Otherwise, within 1 month, you will lose your life. The antique boss is quite good and asked him there. So apparently, according to him, the Neza deities had helped him. So it is important not to be disrespectful. Some may say that, well, you have no fear because you have no misfortune. Why is it that when you reach a certain age, you have a lot of fear? Because it can be very scary. When you experience that, there's no chance for you to seek help. So, the Dharma sisters from Malaysia, first of all, the husband liked these very strange artifacts. Some people just like that. They like the dark side of an object, of an item. Well, when you put at home as a display, it is very bad. Or anything that's too sexual, you should avoid that, because it will cause a family to break up, because you do not know what other things it will bring to the family, what other negative energy it will bring to the family. So the husband made that mistake. He went to the museum, he touched the artifacts. That's why you look at the X-ray. You can see the skull of the 3 World War II soldiers. Indeed, if you look at this, it is very obvious. Not only the husband, after the husband passed away, the house is not peaceful. Even the dogs was howling. Every night at 11, the dogs will howl. In fact, a lot of animals, they have very good sense. They are more sensitive than humans in this respect. They are able to sense the spirit. Actually, before that, human beings used to be able to do that. But once we have light, we lose that abilities. But dogs, they are able to do that. They are able to see that. They can sense it. And even the dogs got scared and howled. So the children can sense it. When the children wakes up, they woke up with bruises over their body. Why does it happen? If you wake up, unless because you have liver cancer, usually it is being beaten by ghosts. Yes, it's just like. Do you remember this dark colored, when you wake up with dark colored bruises back? And these are all beaten by ghosts. So definitely the house has ghosts in the house. It is a haunted house. And for these Dharma sisters, when she's home, she fell down from the stairs. It seems like someone has pushed her down the stairs. It is always, even in her dream, she dreamt of falling down. How to have good feelings, how to have good auspicious energy. But luckily for her, when she's helpless, she's very lucky that she came to Bodhi. And after listening to Master's teaching, she knows that all these are inauspicious, and she threw away others. And she started to invite all the auspicious items into the house. And suddenly the house becomes auspicious. And first thing that she noticed is that the dogs stop howling at night. And not only that, the children are able to sleep soundly without any unexplained bruises. So actually the house is full of haunted energy. Maybe the place itself is not safe, it's not good. Sometimes the things that you buy, you think that they are good, but actually they are bad items. So it brings very inauspicious energy to the house. So that's something that all of us should learn. Thank you, Masters, for the explanations. Master, there's also another story that we'd like to share. Master is possessed as a group. And the first incident happens in Malaysia in 2018 in a national secondary schools in Kelantan, Malaysia. On a peaceful Friday morning at the end of July, there is a 17-year-old girl called Stacy, and she arrived at school for her class as usual. So during the morning self-study sessions, Stacy, she was very lethargic as usual. She rested her head on the desk. Suddenly, she felt someone patted her shoulder. She quickly turned around, but there was no one behind her. To her surprise, the entire classroom, which has been filled with other students just a moment ago, was now empty, except for her. The classroom became eerily dimmed and instilling fear in Stacy. And she felt a sharp pain where she has been patted on the shoulder. and she sensed an unprecedented agony, and she heard eerie cries coming from all around her, as if hundreds of demons-like faces were closing in on her. She tried to scream, but no one came out, and she passed out. So the incident happened so suddenly that nearby students saw Stacy screaming aloud, unable to stop, before losing consciousness. So they rushed to assist Stacy and inform the teacher. However, within minutes, what happened to Stacy seems like a chain reaction. Other students in the classroom also began to break down, one after another, into madness. Some stomped their feet, while others knocked over desks and chairs. And a girl who fainted also claimed to have seen the same dark shadow. And sharp, piercing screams echoed across the campus, and the teachers, initially unsure of what happened, locked the classroom door to prevent students from rushing out and causing harm. Subsequently, several students were carried out and sent to the hospital for examinations. So after the examinations, it was determined that they experienced significant emotional fluctuations leading to neurotic reactions, but there was no serious consequences. Following the incident, the schools immediately announced suspension of class, and the senior management, facing this situation for the first time, felt powerless. On that day, a total of 39 students fell into what was called collective hysteria. After emergency meeting, they decided to invite several sorcerers to perform rituals to the affected classrooms. After they performed the ritual, the children quickly returned to normal. After seeing this, we also saw that in New York, there was also a collective hysteria. In 2012, a high school in New York City witnessed female students involuntarily experiencing severe convulsions. Within 2 months, one after another, a total of 12 female students collapsed. So the school conducted environmental tests to determine whether the campus was exposed to toxic substances like carbon monoxide. But the test results were negative. After several doctors examined the patients, all physical causes were ruled out, and collective hysteria was the only explanation. And most recently, on July 6, 2023, a mysterious incident of collective hysteria occurs in a factory in Indonesia, where employees either uncontrollably cried and screamed or stared blankly, muttering to themselves. Some exhibited eerie laughter, while others fell to the ground and convulsed. It was reported that after one employee experienced a mental trance, others seemed to be infected one by one, exhibiting bizarre behaviors. And more than 100 people in the entire factory experienced this, and this lasted for 4 hours until it completely subsided by 3 p.m. Psychologists pointed out that this was a classic symptom of collective hysteria. As for the cause of the outbreak, the police investigated and says that they didn't have breakfast before work. Well, I don't think this is a good, reasonable explanation. But this collective hysteria is not common, but when it happens, it's pretty scary. Master, why? It seems like collective reaction. Why have these collective reactions? The doctors, the police, the psychologists says that it is a symptom of collective hysteria, but the police says that it's due to they didn't have breakfast before work. What other explanations can be this? Well, I just want to summarize this, and I've seen I've done some research on some of the China scriptures, In the north, they send the the army to the south. Sometimes they are affected by this negative energy. Say, for example, they go to the Miao tribes or near to the Miao tribes. They have this collective hysteria. Some, they find that in the air, there are some poisonous air. Poison gas. So it's some chemical reactions, and as a result, it causes some body reactions to it. But in the school, for the children, it's not possible for them to have some poisonous gas there, right? So the police explanation is quite interesting too. Well, you may say that, well, that's because they have low blood sugar, and that's why they have these reactions. But why do they still have the feelings that there's an image of ghostly image? I am talking about something that's superstitions. But be it the teachers, be it the police, they have to use from a very scientific viewpoint to view this. They do not want to view this from a superstition perspective, because it is beyond nature. Well, if you look at it, they have been possessed. It's a group of people that has been possessed. Is that normal? Yes. But people look at this. It seems to be contagious. When a person experiences that, it passes on to the people around them. Well, that is a human description. Because when a person starts to be possessed, will the rest people be afraid? Yes. Well, if you are, your energy, there's a sudden loss of this vital energy. When you lose this vital energy, you will connect to this lower energy. When you connect with this lower energy, you suddenly can see the image of the ghost. And the ghost, when your frequency, your energy is at lower, you get that too. And do you know that usually ghosts has more experience of such of that? I think a lot of people might find it very strange. Why is it females tend to have more experience more of this than men? Well, for men and women, usually for women, they have lower energy. Especially when they have their menstruations, the energy level is lower. During this period, the energy will be lower. They will have bad temper. You do not have the ease that you feel normally. So what happens? So how do you show that? You will become very short-tempered. And the other one that people that do not know is that in China, ancient China, we talk about yin and yang. So if guy is yang, what about women? Women is yin. So when women has menstruation, is yin within yin, and ghost is in the yin. They don't like yang. So there is a qi. There's a yin energy. So this place is more yin, it has more chance for that. It got to do with the locations, let's say the old house. If you use a science way to describe it, maybe there are certain mold that go in the area, or some dampness in the area. For me, I know as fate. It's the other type. It's not whether you're good fate or bad fate. It has got to do with plague. So when the yin energy is strong, and the woman tends to have more yin energy, and that's why when the common hysteria, you tend to have more female than male. Actually, for guy, when energy level is low, they will also have that possessed as well. Actually, these schools are Muslim schools. They have some of this knowledge. Although this thing happens in the school, but immediately they actually get several sorcerers to come and solve this. And after that, the children are all healed. But in New York, they do not know about this. They do not know about sorcerers. Yes, for Malaysia, it is a Muslim country, so they accept, they are aware of all this. But the speed to discover how productive they are to resolve this. You look at it, it's like this is not the first time that sorcerers have seen this. Actually, a lot of seniors in the school, they are aware of this, and they need to invite sorcerers. I've seen that in other states, they have this incidents as well. In fact, the students, the parents know this, so they let the children bring along some of these special blessed beads. And for some schools, this not happens just once. Maybe in a year, it happens a few times, or the occurrence is quite frequent. So they have some experience to deal with it. So it is not something that's just happened, just brand new. Master, you also mentioned that around the schools, it's more yin energy. Maybe in the past, maybe it used to be a cemetery, so it may have more yin energy in the school. Especially for cemetery, usually such things happens more. And secondly, few hundred years ago, if there are a group of people that's being killed here, so that also quite common. Well, because in the human history, everything is possible. Or maybe it's a hospital, or maybe it's in Taipei, in the 101 building. What is that area? It's a Xinyi region. Some say that during the Japanese occupation, a big part of the place, it used to be a prison. It used to be a prison during the Japanese occupied the Taiwan. So there are a lot of people. There are a lot of spirits. So when I want to develop the area, a lot of Taiwanese are scared of the place. They don't want to go. So that's why they bring the government buildings there. So when they were building the 101, on the 6th level 6, there was a major earthquake. So it's not so peaceful. You know, in Taipei, the place is so modern, but a lot of people don't want to move close to 101 because they know that used to be a prison, and there are a lot of dead souls in the area. So there are many of that stories around the area. So they don't really want to visit that place. Especially for the Taiwanese themselves. So that's why when we pick our place that we live, we tried, if we have a chance, we want to know what's the place. Is it to live people? Or maybe last time it used to be a lake, and they fill up the lake to build house. You have no idea. Actually, even in palace, there are also such incidents. And we talk about medium, we talk about sorcerers, both exist in the Eastern and Western world as well. I just want to share one about Queen Victoria and the medium Robert Lee's. So Queen Victoria is very well known. He was ruled for 63 years. He ascended the throne in 1837. Besides Queen Elizabeth that recently passed away, she ruled the longest, and Queen Victoria is the second longest during the period known as the Victorian era. And during that time, that Britain experienced significant development in industry, culture, politics, science, and military, and leading to the substantial expansion of the British Empire. Queen Victoria's husband was Prince Albert, and the two of them had deep affections for each other. They discussed national affairs together, they raised children together, and they enjoyed 21 years of a happy marriage. After Prince Albert died of a typhoid fever, Queen Victoria was grief-stricken, and she wore mourning attire for 40 years until her death. So she was mourning for 40 years until her death. So I think she was a little bit depressed after the husband left. And even after Prince Albert's death, he couldn't let go of Queen Victoria. So because of this deep love, Prince Albert's soul found a medium who could communicate with the Queen across the boundary between the living and the dead. So who is this medium? This medium was a 13-year-old boy named Robert. So through the medium boy, Prince Albert spoke to the Queen. So the Queen was a little bit, couldn't believe it, wasn't sure. But the medium boy, he used the nickname he has given her. And this name is known only to the two of them. Other people don't know. So this confirmed the Queen's belief in Prince Albert's identity. So in order to allow her to have better communicate with Prince Albert, to facilitate the communication, so the Queen ordered the medium boy to stay in Buckingham Palace. Not only could she she could have intimate conversations with her deceased husband, she could also listen to his opinions on national affairs and policies. So let's talk about Robert, the medium boy. So he had unusual experience at the age of 3. He was young and he was left alone in a dark room and cried loudly in fear. So at that moment, a mysterious yet kind man wearing a Scottish plaid skirt comforted him and sang to him, but he could only see this mysterious figure. So as an adult, Robert, who has not received any formal education, astonishingly, he wrote 6 books on spiritual topics, which remained bestsellers even years after his death at the age of 83. He claimed that these books were dictated to him by his friends in the spirit world, and he was just a recording device. And he even sent one of the books to the queen. And during the Victorian era, there was a notorious serial killer who terrorized the nation. That's Jack the Ripper. He brutally murdered 5 prostitutes, mutilated their bodies. Yet, he was so smart that the police were unable to solve the cases. And even to today, the case was not solved. And because of that, lead to criticisms from Queen Victoria herself. So Robert, the medium, he recorded in his diary that he had offered to assist the police with his spiritual powers. But the police refused. So the true identity of Jack the Ripper remains a mystery to this day. So many people, including to today, they believe that if the police had accepted Robert's help, the case could have been solved. So actually, a lot of people agrees with the medium, and they have a lot of respect for Robert, the medium. So Master, even the queen, who must be full of positive energy, why is it that the queen still communicate with the dead? Well, Queen Victoria was very powerful, one of the most powerful person in the world. But it is because of her love for the husband. Because the husband, the soul, don't want to be reincarnated, and they think about each other. So it is the soul that seek out Robert, the medium. So Robert Lee fulfills the Victoria, Queen Victoria, desire to continue communicate with the husband after the husband passed on. And the Robert story show us that a medium is not an ordinary person. It has a certain high level of energy. So the medium has ability to be a communicator. We did talk about the ghosts that lives in the palace. They are actually ghosts that belong to the palace. They don't move in from elsewhere. So that's why it has ability to continue to stay in the palace. But Master, what about these communications about the life and the death? Is it bad? So it becomes a love between the alive and the dead. This is not legal from the law of nature. Buddha says that it is a small stories in the scriptures. There is a young lady carrying the 3-year-old boy and went to Buddhas and says that Buddhas, everybody says that you are so good. Can you help to revive my 3-year-old son? If you can, I will believe whatever you say. I will make great offerings. And Buddha said, sure, but you must fulfill one condition. The condition is that you can go anywhere. You can go at least 100 households, and you find that if there is one household without death that occurs in the family, and you bring a bowl of rice from the house, and I'll revive a child. So she went around to ask all the house and said, have you died? Anyone passed on in your house? Yeah. Well, my grandpa passed away a few days ago. So she went around the house, and every household has some death occurs before. Because the mom didn't want to part with the babies. The love for the babies is very deep, although the baby is already passed on. The relationship between the mom and the child is a lot deeper. So such communications, don't ask, try not to ask about the dead person. Don't ask the medium. Every time you think of a mom, you cried. Such behaviors, the spirit of the dead will not have peace. So because if you are alive and you always cried because of the dead person, they will want the person in the other world will not be liberated. So you must accept the law of the way. And if a person passes on, let go and move on. And that's why Buddha explained that this is part of these karmic connections. It doesn't matter whether the 3 years old pass on or 80 years old pass on. It just means that the person has fulfilled the life goal on earth. Some has repaid their debts and leave the world. So everyone has a purpose on earth. So once they fulfill the purpose, they will leave. That's what Buddha has taught us. In fact, a lot of these medium, be it Western medium or Chinese medium, they help them and they reach a completion. So actually what the Queen Victoria did at that point in time was not right. Because for 40 years, she always in mourning. This is very troublesome. It has nothing good for the country because she is the queen. She represents the British Empire. She is so powerful. So it's actually very bad for her. Well, if she had someone like great masters, to provide some advice to her, you will not be like that. So actually, Roberts is very interesting. He had that incident, and she cried, and she saw someone when she cried, she was left in a dark room and cried loudly. She saw a mysterious kind man wearing Scottish clothes to comfort him. So for the medium, he has a spiritual friends that comes to help him. Actually, there's a various way that we can look at this event. This child at 3 years old, actually people before 10 years old, they are able to connect with the spirit. Actually, a lot of child experience that. What do they see? And some who can say they don't want to go to the corner because there's ghosts at the corner. The parents may think that, well, you're just being very timid. But no, may not be. Maybe the child did see a spirit at the corner. It is just that if you're an adult, you don't have that sense. You cannot feel it. But for the child, the senses, the world is very different. A child's sense of the world is very different from an adult. So, why is it that when we learn the Buddha Dharma, we want to attain a state whereby we have less thoughts? we are more simple and clear-minded. That's when you can sense better. So for Robert, when he was 3 years old, he saw someone, a Scottish spirit, a mysterious and kind man. I feel that in their past life, they are disciples and the masters. The Scottish man is actually the master. It's just that Robert has no feeling, cannot remember. But the master came back to teach him again. So they were both sorcerers. Why is it that he is the only one that could see the mysterious figure, but not others? They can see each other, they can feel one another. So for this, Robert is born with this innate ability. And he can connect with the master. And the master can say a lot of things to him. And he wrote 6 books on spiritual topics. And he claimed that these books were dictated to him by his friends in the spirit world because he had not received any formal educations. What about the US? Are there like this? What about the White House? Actually, the White House is also haunted. So the United States White House is an ancient building with a history of over 200 years, serving as a core political power and a symbol of world supremacy. So while the exterior White House appears bright and hosts various events from time to time, it is also a well-known haunted landmark in the United States. So this says that President Truman, shortly after taking office, complained to his wife in a letter saying that I sit here in this old house and listen to the ghosts walking up and down the stairs all day. The floor suddenly creaks and the curtains move on their own. One night he heard a whisper from the void. I'm Burns. Truman thought it was a prank by the Secretary of State, James Burns. And immediately he got up to find him, only to discover that Secretary Burns hasn't set foot in the White House all day. So who was this Burns? Truman later learned before him, President Roosevelt had heard the same voice, and the owner of the voice was David Burns, the former owner of the White House land, who reportedly lingered as he was reluctant to let George Washington use the land to build the White House. So that's why his spirit was still there. And then, when President Lincoln, who also stands in the White House, why? Because 3 of Lincoln's 4 sons died at the age of 4, 12, and 18. Out of nostalgia for his sons, Lincoln and his wife Mary held these séances in the White House. And then speaking a few words to their deceased children through a medium to comfort their souls. So what is it? In order to communicate with the spirit, people gather around a table in a dimly lit room, hold hands and summon spirits. So this ritual is called a séance. The summoned spirits communicate with people through a medium. So Lincoln also summoned the spirits of past presidents and founding fathers, like Washington's and President Franklin, to seek advice on governing. It is said that Franklin's ghost successfully predicted the victory of the North in the Civil War. After Lincoln's death, he remained the most frequent ghost to visit the White House. So during President Roosevelt's tenure, several staff members also claimed to have seen Lincoln's ghost. First, Lady Eleanor Roosevelt said she could sometimes feel Lincoln's ghost wandering in the White House. And every time she felt Lincoln's presence, her dog would bark for no apparent reasons. Once, when Churchill stayed overnight at the White House, he encountered Lincoln's ghost in the presidential bedrooms. So Churchill had just finished taking a shower in the bathroom. He was still holding a cigar in one hand and a glass of scotch on the other, walking naked into the Lincoln suites. At that moment, he saw the ghost of former President Lincoln standing by the fireplace in the bedroom. They stared at each other for a few seconds, and then Lincoln smiled and disappeared from his sight. It is said that after the incident, Churchill refused to spend the night in Lincoln's suites again. So that nobody dares to sleep at Lincoln's bedrooms. So it seems like the White House has quite interesting. Many past presidents seems to like to linger. Their spirits like to hang around the White House. Well, the president seems to have a fondness for their former residence and positions. Because they may have felt that they contributed to the country. It is not easy to be the president. They can use up the entire energy of the person when he becomes the president. After 8 years, the person aged a lot. I think if you look at Clinton, if you look at Obama, well, when they first becomes the president, they were so handsome. And after 8 years, it seems like 28 years have passed. They age suddenly. Because to be a president, it is actually very tiring. So many past presidents, their spirits may still live in the White House. So, under certain circumstances, their spirits may show the form. So, Churchill had a unique experience to see Lincoln when he was not dressed at all. He was naked. It is beyond times and space. And I'm sure Churchill, before he sees Lincoln, he may have respected Lincoln. And that's why Lincoln showed his form to Churchill. Actually, in a lot of palaces, such incidents happens. You got scared when you see the image of president or the emperor, or even. So in the White House, they also perform this census, and through the medium, they try to call the spirits. So what is different is that here in the US, they try to call the spirits, whereas in the UK, it's the spirits that try to seek the medium to communicate with the life. So if you think about the UK and the US, they are both developed nations, but they too have this events. Especially the Lincolns, because they have 3 kids died at a very young age. they must have felt the pain.
看看吧哈，这样真是。
但是他们当时治理的成就是非常大的。
是啊，对
对，就是他其他的方面说为什么再显现出来，咱也不知道。
Why do they appear? We do not know. Maybe it's just the time. Coincidence.
就是美国啥信不信？从这个白宫最高统治的机关。
So if you look at from the White House, people also believe in the spirit world, and they even perform certain ritual to communicate with the soul of the dead. So, Master, today we have so many interesting topics. We talk about the sorcerers, and I just want to know that who exactly can be a sorceress. You know, Winston Churchill, he actually see the spirit. Can he be nurtured to be a sorceress? Very difficult. If Winston Churchill becomes a sorceress, they may not be good sorcerers. For Churchill's, during the Second World War, he has killed many people, so he cannot be a sorceress. He is too opinionated. When a person is too strong in yang energy, they cannot be sorcerers. And if you look at the forehead, it seems like a sword at the forehead. It looks like full of energy, a lion's energy, fierce. So he is not suitable to be a sorceress. What about people who always dreamed about the ghosts? Can they be a sorceress? Possible, but it doesn't mean that they have the ability to see the spirits. They can be a sorceress. Like some people who can learn the Buddha Dharma, we say that this person has affinity with Buddhas. So sometimes you have to look at the look, not only the look, the the date, the time, the birth times. You have to look at their look. You have to look overall if they can be a sorceress. Or even if you want to learn the Buddha Dharma, we look at from a Buddhist perspective. So for sorcerers, they need some foundations. They have to meet a certain requirement. Yes, like Robert says that when he was young, he says that maybe it's something from his past life. Or some has been saved, or maybe they are sick for a period of time and they've been saved by sorcerers. And then they become disciples. So let's say who will be suitable. I'll just tell you what I know. I'm not a sorceress. I just share with you what I know. First, they are more sensitive to the ghosts, to the spirit. They are sensitive. But best is they can sense it, but they are not bullied by the spirits. Some, they have the energy to chase those spirits away. Some look at the spirit, they are fear. But there are some who has energy to get them away, get rid of them. And like Zhonghui, they can even demand the spirit to do things to them. So they have different energy level. So they are better than the spirits. In China, there are great masters are like that. So in the Buddhist world, we don't call them as sorcerers. But you also need cultivations. You must have the ability to you must be conducive to spiritual communications. If you have no abilities, what can you say? So that's why people look for animals, immortals, the spirit, to do that. In the northeastern areas, they'll look at the immortals of the animal spirits to help them. First, they must be very sensitive. And second, they are not affected by the spirit. They can sense the spirit, but they are not affected or bullied by the spirit. And third is that very smart, but they don't have good memories. They are very straightforward people. I think I fit that categories. But I learned the Buddha Dharma. In the process of me learning the Dharma, I learned this. So because I have a various master, so sometimes the master imparted me with some dharmic power. Some people can sleep for many days. They cannot sleep for a few days or not eat for a few days. They are very strong in creativities, but they are not focused to create wealth. They do not have very strong desire to be wealthy. Or some, in the facial expressions, one eye is big, one eyebrow is higher, the other eye is smaller, and the eyebrow is a bit lower. This is the yin-yang eyes. Some, the hands, they have the pagoda. Like you have a triangle shape at the palms that looks like a pagoda. These are the people that can summon the spirit world. Born with it, inborn. And they're just naturally inclined towards the spiritual world. The skin is very thin, and they are very detailed. Is it okay if they have rational thinking? No. If they're too rational, you can't. Because it's accumulations of knowledge. Whatever their teachers teach you is different. You need something that the deities pass on to you. You cannot be too logical. So if you are a logical person, you look for sense or signs. So for sorcerers, maybe they just touch the floor, they know who killed here. When they touch the floor, or maybe the mother left a shoes, so it doesn't look at the fingerprint. It looks at the shoes and look at the sense of the person to sense where the person is. The person doesn't know where he is, but it is the spirit world, the friends of the spirit world that helps these sorcerers to hunt that down. So this is my understanding. Do you think it was suitable to be a sorceress? So Master says that you must be able to connect with heaven, with earth, with nature. A good sorceress is very powerful.
那之前我们就是看那个讲那个马来西亚那个同修他的故事的时候哈，他讲到了一个去那个
So just now, Master, we talk about the Malaysian Dharma sisters. So she went to museums, and after that she became like that. So are there some places we shouldn't go?
出这种事儿的哈，
Well,
我们自己找我们来帮忙的人当中，容易出这种事儿的。也有一些，也许每个地方都可能会出这种事儿。
actually, some places prone to possessions.
出这种事儿的，容易有这些阿飘啊，
They usually have this spirits.
那我想第一个就是
I
埋
think
死人的地
first
方，
is graveyard.
无论新老坟墓，
Whether is it new or
第二个
old
呢
or
殡仪
cemeteries
馆、火葬场、
or funeral
给这个
parlors
给死者
or
告别啊
crematoriums.
出殡仪式等等的哈，
对
还有在放尸体的太平间，啊，
These
那这个地
places
方
will
火化
have
场
or
也直接
even
处理这个尸体的
the
这个
deals with
相关的这些环境
the
机构
bodies, the dead
容易这样。
bodies, you will have more
还有医院。
of such
医院，
spirits, even hospitals
没错了，精神病院，
or psychiatric hospitals,
过去的老王宫、皇宫，
and also old
那
castles.
里也死人呢。你刚才讲到这个伊丽莎白、
We talk
也
about
维多利
Queen
维多利亚二世
Victoria.
那个哈
对，
她的皇宫里头，你说
The
有没有鬼能
castles,
进
do
去
you
呢？
think there are
别
some
的
spirits that
平
can
民
go
鬼进
in?
不去。
Well,
原
the
来在里面
normal
死的人
girls
他
cannot
在
go
里头
in, but
他不
those
要
that
进去，
died
他
in
原来
there,
就在那儿死的。
if they died there, the spirits will
那
remain
其他国
there.
家的皇宫也以此类推。
对
So other castles is the
一
same
般
too.
鬼进不去，原来就死很多人。
Most of the time, with the
你再
castles,
看
there are
一
a
些
lot
宫
of
斗剧，
dead.
对不对？
Then
是吧？那100年下来，多少女人给弄死啊？是吧？
对，
对
很，惨。
那那些冤屈
a
往哪
lot
跑
of
啊
people, a lot of death.
有些得不到解脱还在那儿。
Maybe the
嗯
spirit's
所以
still
经
there.
常在一些皇宫里看到一些显象，
是
突然间就觉得。
So you can see
只是在
that
外面
in
打
the
个闪电
castles, you can
这
see
时候
some of
墙
that.
上
在某个墙上，
Maybe at
就是有
certain
一个人在
wall,
冲你笑，是吧？
you see that someone's
仔细查
smiling
查
at
那个
you.
相貌，你对那个资料的话，说，哎，这不是某一朝代的某个
And then when you
皇后
look
啊
at
或者
some
贵妃啊
historical records,
这样的。
you
都是
see
有
that
的
the
哈
image that you saw was actually
还有呢，
some
老旅
ancient
馆。
people, or even old
老
inn.
旅馆，有些人呢想不开事儿，遇到烦恼了哈，真
Some
过不去了。
people
有些人说一辈子没住过几次好旅馆，临走了，剩下最后这笔钱，我先在
they
那个
wanted
总
to
统
commit
套房或者贵一
suicide.
点的套房里
They may
先
commit
糟蹋
suicide
一顿
in
再
some
说
of the
吃
old
顿好
inns.
的，穿上最
They
漂
have
亮
a
的衣
good
服，
meal,
最后怎么了断？
put on the good clothes,
所以有
beautiful
很多的
clothes,
旅馆呢
and
也
commit
奇怪
suicide
了，
in some
有些
inns
旅
or
馆越生意不
hotels.
好，越容易住这个东西。
So
之
for
前
the
我教大家
hotels,
说，
if the
你去
business
旅
is
馆的
not
时候进
good,
门哈，
so
先
you,
敲
I
三下
think I
门
told you before,
来
when
了
you
打
go
声
to a
哈，我
hotel,
进来了哈，
you must
就这样
always knock on the door, hotel
打
door,
个招呼，
and say, and before you enter, you say, I'm coming,
嗯，像欧
just
洲
to
的老
alert the
城堡
spirit.
哎，
是吧？
都
那各种各样的亲王的城堡
So in
有的
Europe,
几百年了
there are a
是
lot
吧
of castles,
也是没
hundreds of
人
years
住
old.
啊，人
A
一
lot
开
of
门
these
一吓跑了
castles,
他
nobody
宁可
lives
在
in
外
these
面哈
castles.
住个小的临时屋，搭个帐篷，我也不住里去。
You'd rather
那
live
么
in a
大一个
tent
城堡啊
outside
能盛几万
than
人
live
城堡，
in
一个人都没有，
a castle.
哪里都出声音儿，甚至听到有人在那下棋聊
In
天，
fact, you find that in the castles in all corners, they'll have weird noise
是吧？
without
多吓
people
人
there.
啊
Isn't that
老城
scary?
堡啊，还有
还有就是博物馆了，
啊
And
对
also
博物馆
museums.
因为博物馆放的很多的文物哈，
Because in the museums, they have a lot of
是人
artifacts.
那活着时候用的，
Some
还有很多是
artifacts
死
are
时候用
used
的
by the
还有各
lived
种的
and
纪
by
念
the
性比如
dead.
说这是巫术用的
Some of
什么
them
什么
are
东西
rituals to carry out
还有
some
呢
rituals,
陪葬品也比较多，
or even some
啊
barrels.
甚至把一个完整的
items
棺材放那儿来展
Some
示。
even place
这
a
是常见
coffin
的呀
to display
对
there.
吧？还有说这个是在过去某个女贵族身上扒下来这个衣服在那展示，
Some say that this is the clothes of some old
嗯，
people.
所以这都是挖坟挖出来的。
So these are all dig up from the
所以
cave, dig
在
up from
这些
the
地方
tomb.
还是要小心啊。
So when you go
怎
to
么
these
小心呢
places, you want to be
以前
careful.
师傅也是讲过
How to be
身上要
careful,
携
Master?
带这一些哈
We must
有
carry
辟
with
邪
us
的
some
这些
blessed
有时候要
auspicious
哎呀避不
items.
开呀，
But sometimes it's
所以你找旅馆
unavoidable.
太贵了
Say,
吧
for example, you
你受不
want to
了
stay in a hotel.
太烂
If the
了吧
hotel
你也
is
受
too
不了
expensive, you can't
啊
afford
你
it.
可能选择的是中不溜儿的吧，结
So
果选择一个
you
老
try
城堡里
to
去住
find something in between.
啊，你说你要睡觉了，
So you say you want to sleep, but the toilet lights just flicker. How do you sleep? And then when you want to sleep, the flush, voluntary flushed. Who's the one that flushed the toilets? I've encountered twice in a hotel, in a toilet, the brigade spray. It just sprayed by itself. I have experienced that. So I went to take a look. Indeed, there's some water sprayed from the ground. But you think about it, in the hotel, a lot of them actually, it's actually manually controlled, not by any remote control. Someone must have pushed it, pushed the spray. So when you enter, so who turned on? So what happened, Master? And I say, I'm just here staying for 2 nights, and it's yours. So they gave me a bigger room. They said usually nobody stays in the room. And I think I entered the rooms, and I say, well, I'm not scared of you. You just bear with me for 2 days. I'm just staying for 2 days, and I'll leave. So if you continue doing this, I'm going to say, I'm going to spread the Buddha Dharma to you.
不是英国人是法国人，是说英文的。这个就是网络的一个
I've watched a YouTuber.
拍到一个旅馆
He took a pictures of a hotel. He says at this specific hotel that's always haunted, and he didn't believe it. He went there. So he wanted to take the pictures of this. So he liked to take some weird incidents. So he brought two cell phones with him and take. And say, see, there is no, see, this place is haunted. It's not haunted. I even make a cup of coffee and I watch it. At the back, there's a bed. At the side of the bed, there are 2 corner lights. And the left lights, it just start to flicker. And he looked at people message him. And he turned, he got scared. He quickly went to press it. And after that, continued to flicker. His natural reaction is that it's too scary. Stop flicker. And it stopped. And said, wow, this is indeed probably some haunted. So I want to be careful when I speak. And after a while, he made the coffee. Suddenly, the water boiled. Did he boil it? No, he already boiled. And then there is no water in the coffee pot. Who is the one that turned on the coffee pot? And he started to be worried. And he started to sense that his hair stand up. He went to the kitchen. And after a while, the steam iron starts to produce steam. And he said, this has to off. So after that, he asked to change his room. Ghosts has different personality as well. Some ghosts, they like to joke. And after that, for that room, after that, a lot of people went in to take the pictures, take the videos. So the world is huge, and there are a lot of weird incidents, events. How do we avoid? If you carry with you, so you must remember, the ghost, the spirit world, belongs to the yin energy. So you want the opposites. You want yang energy. if you have stronger yang energy, the ghost will be afraid because the yang energy is stronger than the yin energy. It cannot hold it. So with you, you want to bring extreme yang items. I remember that some people, they are very easy for them to be sorcerers, is that they are extremely yin people, personalities. So they will be able to communicate with the spiritual world. But I still question whether they can see and sense they can be a sorceress. They still need to have energy. So we talk about how to ward off the evil spirits. So we want positive energies. For example, Buddha's image, Buddha's statues, the Buddha's mantra, the Vajra pestle, Vajra verbal, or even a card, auspicious cards, or chanting beads, or even the name cards of an auspicious person. Or he gave you a Buddha's Bodhisattva's small auspicious cards, the pictures of the Tanka. These are all okay. They are extreme yang, or even Buddhist scriptures. It's okay too. Seeing the Buddhist scriptures is like seeing Buddhas. Or we have different types of blessed items. We have some natural beads. We have some Bodhi sandalwood incense. We have sapphires. We have rubies. We have turquoise. I'll talk to you a bit more about turquoise. Muhammad says that if you are a soldier, if you wear the turquoise, you will not be harmed. You will receive the blessings and protections of the deities. It also enhances your ability to communicate with the spirits. In the Middle East, there are a lot of plants, and it's important to wear turquoise in the Middle East. But because there are a lot of precious stones, like you talk about even lapis lazuli, the beads, there's even like beads, the Tibetan beads. In Tibet, a lot of Buddhists, whenever they are free, they will chant, and that's why the beads carries with them the blessings. And even agate. And as long as it has been blessed by great master, or even if it's blessed by a master or touched, so it will be transformed to become an extremely yang energy. So Master says that the blessing is very important. What about those that we buy from the some stores, souvenir stores? Do they have the same energy? No, they don't. They don't have the same energy. It wants to be blessed. Thank you, Master. So all these auspicious items, they have been blessed. If you go to the hotel, or you go to a new place, or if your old house, nobody stays there, you want to practice some ritual. So let's talk about some rituals. We talk about salt, especially the Himalayan salt. You melt it with some warm water. Don't put a lot of salt. Maybe you can put into a spray bottle and spray around. Say you go to a funeral parlor. Before you enter the house, you bring the salt and the water, and you put a spray around you. And your clothes, don't wear into the house. You just put outside the house, go change something, and then use salt water to wash your entire body. Even your car, you want to spray inside and outside. Otherwise, say for example, a newly married couple's car, they have a very strong energy. They don't know, but they'll suck other people's energy. Your car has energy. So if you drive it, you have problem. So you want to get rid of that. Or if the car has some accidents, you just want to use the salt water to spray. And after that, you want to burn some sandalwood incense and put in the car, leaving a little bit of window openings. And then after that, you put the Buddha's image into the car. In the hotel, may not be so suitable for you to spray the salt water, but you can burn the sandalwood incense. You need to live in a place. You just say, well, I'm just here for a few days, just allow me. And then you just bring with you the auspicious card, even master's card. You just put around the house. It's better that way. Otherwise, you're not sure what you have encountered. So this Mahakala deity's tanka with different size is very good. It's very convenient for you to bring along. So or when the children go overseas to study, you just place it there and bring auspiciousness. So this is how we ward off evil spirits, some simple methods. If you can wear the 8 auspicious treasure beads, it's even better. So a few things I just want to communicate. Because of some technical and comprehensive reasons, the commenting functions on various platforms like the YouTube, Facebook are disabled. So I just hope to seek your understanding. And also in Chibei, and due to special reasons, orders from Chinese online friends from China are temporarily not accepted. So we have to close the order from China orders. I just want to explain further, although I'm from China, I have a lot of affections and deep feelings to our Chinese online friends. But we have a very special reasons, and I couldn't. It's something that is very hard for me to explain, and I hope that everyone can understand. Can understand. Thank you, Master.
那师傅，我们说一下下一次的直播的
So,
时
Master,
间。
let's talk about the next live
那就
broadcast.
是北美温哥
The
华
next
时
live
间3月
broadcast
23
will
号
be March
周
the
六晚上的
23rd,
6点钟
6 p.m.
亚洲
Vancouver
台北时间
time,
呢3月24
and
号
March
周日上午的
24th,
9点钟。
9 a.m.
对，因为我们
Taipei
这个
time.
就是有夏令时了啊，所以这个台北的这个时间就提
So
前了
we
1个小
change
时。对，亚洲
to
的这个
advance 1
朋友们
hour in
记住是
Asia
上午9点钟了
from 10
不是10
a.m.
点了
to 9 a.m.
好。
going
好
forward.
的，那最后呢，祝福
And
大家
finally,
如意
wish
吉
all
祥，
auspiciousness,
健康长寿，
health and
欢喜
longevity,
自在。
to be
我
peaceful
们
and
下
at
次直播
ease.
再见。
See you during the next live broadcast.
与您相遇，小小的红点里，人生就此欢喜。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。在茫茫人海之中，让我与你相遇。小小的红点里，人生变得神奇。